I switched from Google Calendar to Notion Calendar a long time ago, and even if you don't use Notion, this is why you might want to make the switch anyway. This video isn't sponsored, so this is purely based on my own experience. I'll start off with literally the best feature ever, which is connecting multiple different calendars. If you use multiple calendars like Google or Apple, in my case, I use two Google accounts, one for personal and one for work. The Google Calendar mobile app does show multiple different calendars in one single interface, but for some reason the desktop app does not. I'm not sure why, but since I use my computer the most, then Notion Calendar helps a lot. Previously, I have to open two different tabs at once just to keep up to date with my calendars, and it gets quite annoying. But now I use Notion Calendar to connect everything into one single space. All you have to do is go to Settings, click on Add Calendar Account, and connect either your Google or Apple account. So even if you don't use Notion, this feature is going to save you a lot of time. But if you are already a Notion user, Notion Calendar just gets much more powerful. Other than being able to add or connect to a Notion page to a certain event, you can also connect entire Notion databases into Notion Calendar and unlock more features. For example, I want to connect my projects and task management system to schedule it a little better. To do that, make sure that the database has a date property, then right click on the view and click on manage in calendar. Now the database will be shown on the sidebar, and if you click on it, you can see all the database pages and you can drag them to schedule it inside of your calendar. So when I'm planning my day, I can just see all of my events and schedule my tasks around them. Another weird but extremely useful hack that I use this feature for is to add extra observance days that isn't included in my calendar. For example, I have the pre-built Google Calendar holidays in Malaysia added, but this pre-built calendar doesn't show days such as Father's Day, Mother's Day, or April Fool's Day. And you might be thinking this is a very easy fix. All I have to do is just put it inside my calendar and set it to recurring every year. Well, you're right. For certain days like April Fool's Day, for example, it is always on the 1st of April and it never changes. But Father's and Mother's Day are a little odd because the date changes slightly every year. For example, Father's Day falls on the 3rd Sunday in June. So since the date always shifts every year, there is no way to set it natively in the calendar. So I created a database solely for this type of days, and I use database automations to create the page using a formula every year. Then I just connect the database to my calendar and these events now appear. Yes, I know it's very niche, but it's the only way I could think of, and it works very well. If those features still haven't managed to convince you to switch, here are some more small quality of life features. First, whenever you use Google Calendar, there is no indicator that the event has passed unless you look at the current time and compare it with the event time. For Notion Calendar, the past events will be grayed out and it's just much faster to understand it. Second, if you want to search for a specific event, in Google Calendar, there is a search button and it works, but Notion Calendar took it a step further by giving us a button to go to the date of that specific event. Now, you can adjust it here or just look at what other events are there in that day. Also, if you ever use calendar scheduling app like Calendly or Cal.com, you'll know that setting up your availability is extremely important. Meaning whenever you create an event, selecting busy or free changes your schedule completely. You can change it in the Google Calendar desktop app, but changing it in the mobile app is just impossible because there isn't an option to select it. So whenever I need to create an event in my mobile app, it'll be much better to use Notion Calendar because there is an option to select it. Notion Calendar's interface is also quite similar to Google's Calendar, so you can switch immediately without learning anything extra. But if you want to be a complete power user, you can learn their keyboard shortcuts like Ctrl-K to open the command menu. I personally don't use it though because regular clicking is enough for me. Of course, not everything in life is perfect. There are a few cons in Notion Calendar. The biggest issue for most people is that they are not able to connect their Microsoft/Outlook accounts to Notion Calendar. For now, it's not possible to do it natively, but there are a workaround, which is sharing your Outlook calendar with your Google Calendar, which will then show up in your Notion calendar. That's a lot of calendar, and I'll put a tutorial link down in the description below if you're interested. Second, for the mobile app, there isn't a weekly view, The max you could go up to is up to 3 days. I'm not sure why they limit it, but hopefully it changes soon. I also noticed that Notion calendar widgets doesn't refresh at all unless I open up the app, so I'm still using Google Calendar's widgets for that. I'm not sure if this is just me or is it the entire Android community, but it's worth knowing. Finally, the weirdest one of them all is that you cannot connect Notion calendar to Notion. You can use the embed feature to embed the Notion calendar website, but that only works in the Notion web app and the desktop app doesn't show it correctly. If this works one day though, I'm sure that a lot of people will start adding that into their Notion workspace. If you're using a calendar, you most likely also have frequent meetings, so I would suggest using an AI meeting assistant to record and summarize your meeting. Click on this video where I compare two of the best AI meeting assistants I've ever used.